Assalamu alaikum. I had a lot of things on my mind this morning. You know, I was sitting watching some YouTube videos. I watched Tone Talks. Antonio Moore, he always brings the real, brings the facts, brings data. I watched a little bit of Roland Martin. And what's his name? Kwame Brown. I like him too. But generally, I have my issues with a lot of people on YouTube because they're not really looking at the situation for what it is. You know, Tone, he's pretty much spot on. You see, we don't understand how bad our situation is in this country as Native Black Americans. Okay, and when I say Native Black Americans, I mean we are not immigrants. We didn't choose to come here. Our ancestors didn't come here to make money for religious freedom and all that other foolishness, that those other white immigrants came here for. The vast majority of white immigrants came here for a better life, for economic reasons, or for political reasons. Our ancestors didn't have a choice, they were brought here. So when I say Native Black Americans, that's what I mean. Our people were brought here, okay? And they gave 250 years of free labor. And then we suffered another 100 years of Jim Crow, okay? And then people wonder why the average white family has 10 times, if not more, 10 times the wealth of the average black family. See, people love to, and I get into it with people in the comments on YouTube quite a bit, but they love to pretend that, we're the problem. It's something we're not doing, You got to understand that Barack Obama, when he became president, you got to understand that he had the benefit of white privilege and white wealth. And what do I mean by that? I mean that his white side of the family left him almost $500,000. And that's not including what they gave him while he was growing up. That's just what his grandmother left him after she passed away. But most of white America is living off of this kind of wealth. They're living off of wealth that's being passed down from one generation to the next. And when this next group of white baby boomers die, they're leaving over $60 trillion to their children and grandchildren. You see, Jeff Bezos started Amazon with $300,000 or $400,000 that he got from his family and friends. You see, but we got Jay-Z. Well, Jay-Z, to finance his career, he had to do illicit. He had to sell drugs. You see, for Jeezy to finance his career, he had to sell drugs. See, business takes finance. You see, business takes finance, access to capital, whether it's your capital or the bank's capital or government capital. It takes capital to finance business, which most of us, the vast majority of us, do not have. I was looking up loans and grants for black business, and I saw one that was designed for small black businesses with at least 25 employees. Well, that's not going to help many black businesses because over 90% of black businesses only have one employee. Over 90%. So that grant or loan program will only help probably less than 1% of black business. Why? Because we're underfunded. We're undercapitalized. And we just don't have the capital or access to it unless we do something illegal. And I know plenty of people, they do illegal things, but they still, once they get that illegal money, they don't know how to clean it and make it legit. They don't know what to do with it. Okay? But for someone like myself, who is not into anything illicit, it's difficult to get capital. I would love for somebody to send me some information on how to get capital for business. I think I could build a multi-million-dollar empire if I had capital. It's like, having a 747 jet with no gas in the tank. You know you can fly it, but you got to get it off the runway. But you can't get it off the runway because your gas tanks are empty. Okay? You know, and I got especially white folks and especially white men that like to play the victim, you know, and they always think that their opinions matter. White folks, 9 times out of 10, y'all are way behind. Y'all are 20, 30 years behind. Like, and I used this example before that when Dr. King was assassinated, most white folks did not see him favorably. It took white folks 30, 40 years to come around to looking at Dr. King in a favorable light. But at the time, no. At the time the Lyndon Baines Johnson passed the civil rights legislation, he didn't. Most white folks didn't even think it was necessary. You know, they thought that white folks and black folks had the same rights. They didn't believe it was necessary, even though we know it was necessary. At the time, the military was desegregated. Most white folks did not think it was necessary. Matter of fact, they thought it would be detrimental to the military. Now we look back on it and we say, yeah, that was the right thing to do. But at the time, most white folks was against it. So even now, most white folks are against reparations. You know? But Black America has been stolen from and looted for 400 years. It's time, you know, we get what's due from our government, the country that we built. I'm sick of looking in the news and seeing how much money the U.S. government sends to Nigeria and sends to Israel and sends to Guatemala. That little trip that Kamala just took to Guatemala, there's money behind that trip. You know, I'm tired of looking and seeing welcoming. Every major city has a welcoming program for immigrants. What about for the people that built this country? What about the people that fought in every war? What about the people that suffered Jim Crow? And for all these white conservatives and white supremacists that want to pretend like slavery was so long ago, the last Confederate soldier died in 1959. I was born in 1969. It's not that long ago. And the effects of it are still here today. You know, Black America needs capital. Black business needs capital. You know, Joe Biden has no problem with giving Indian tribes capital. He gave them $31 billion in that COVID relief plan, but you don't see those white folks filing any lawsuits against that money he gave to Indian tribes. But they did file it against the program for socially disadvantaged farmers. They're in an uproar about that because in their minds they perceive it as going to black farmers and minority farmers. But they didn't file no lawsuits against that money that's going to Indian tribes. See, white folks have a problem with black folks in America. They have a problem. When we were released from slavery, they didn't want the government to give us anything. And they still don't. Most of white America's white supremacists, most of them probably just don't realize it. Assalamu alaikum.